Welcome to another episode of the Morning Almonds Podcast. It's not breakfast, it's nourishment. The kind that feeds us through music, food, storytelling, and honest conversation. Let's get cracking. Welcome, and I, your host, Joshua Zeck, thank you for spending your time with me today. In episode number 7 of Morning Almonds, my guest, guitarist and band and concert promoter Shane Murray of Lawrence, Kansas, discusses his life journey and the longing to leave a memorable and nurturing legacy. You will hear amazing stories from outguaring GWAR to having a legendary keyboardist add some magic to a new project, plus wisdom from Shane on overcoming life's challenges. Before we get to Shane, I just want to encourage you to get your heart checked and make sure you are in tune with your cardio health. The British philosopher Alan Watts, who popularized Zen and Taoism for Western audiences, encourages us to be aware of synchronicities and patterns, and this has been the case with this topic. It comes up in our conversation today, and there have been a few people in my life that I know, not very old, who have recently passed away from heart conditions. Plus, my last lab results, while not horrible, do need some work. I know it can be difficult to get an appointment these days. However, I would encourage you to use whatever resources you may have, whether through your employer, your insurance company, maybe telehealth, or the internet. You can make an impact right now by adding foods to your diet that help raise your HDLs or your high-density lipoproteins and doing some light cardio. Foods such as fish high in omega-3s like salmon, using olive oil to cook, eating avocados, nuts like almonds, your morning almonds, walnuts, pistachios, and seeds like chia, flax, and hemp, beans, lentils, and chickpeas, and then whole grains, and then fruits high in fiber like berries, apples, and pears, and then dark leafy greens such as spinach and kale. Those are some foods you can introduce to your diet right now that will help. And lastly, but most importantly, and probably not very popular, but quitting smoking and keeping your alcohol to a minimum will do wonders. And also, see your doctor, 'cause I'm not one. Now here's that interview with Shane. All right, so today's guest is Shane the General Murray. Shane is the creator and leader of his current project, They Watch Us from the Moon. Along with playing guitar and writing songs and lyrics, Shane also helps promote and book shows for bands in the Midwest. And he is also the co-founder of the Midwest Doom Coalition. Some of his past projects are Slackjaw, Creeper, and Truth Cell, among others. Shane is a father, and he is also the house dad for the Alpha Epsilon Pi fraternity at KU. Shane, welcome to Morning Almonds.
Awesome. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Well, I had to throw in that last part about the frat house because that's how we met.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. It's funny. Never in a million years.
How long have you been there?
I've been there 8 years. When I started, my culinary career, I never imagined in a million years that I'd end up doing what I'm doing because of it. It's a fun job. It really is.
How did you get started in food?
I got started in food when I was probably 14 or 15. I can't remember what the starting age for work in Kansas was back then. I want to say 15 is when I first started working in restaurants. It was first place I ever worked was a place called Zeck Hillside Cafe in Ottawa, Kansas. And I was going to high school there, and I worked at Zeck. And I got into cooking, wanted to cook because my mom, and it's going to be the opposite punchline where you think this is going. My mom and my grandmother were terrible cooks. Terrible. My mom to this day couldn't make a pancake to save her soul. Can't do it. Can't do it. So I got into cooking because somebody had to. Somebody had to save Thanksgiving and Christmas dinner, and I gave my mom a list. I think I was about 15 or 16 maybe. I was like, just get this stuff for Thanksgiving and back out of the kitchen, and I'll take care of it.
Well, yeah, my research, I had listened to a few of your other interviews and had I didn't realize all this time that I knew you that you went to high school in Ottawa. And yeah. I have a tie to Ottawa.
Oh, wow.
I went to Ottawa University after I got kicked out of KU.
Right
And
on.
if I think
It's a
about
solid
it,
school.
I had a lot of fun. And that restaurant that I think you're talking about, I don't remember what the name, it wasn't called Zeke's, but it was south of town and it was up by I-35. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
So I can't remember the name of it. They changed the name of it. And we used to go out there because we go to after the bars, they had a breakfast buffet. And
no kidding.
Yeah. So we go out there like 1 or 2 in the morning, and then we dine and dashed on them a couple times, and then they wouldn't even let us in the door after that. They're like, "Nah, you boys aren't even allowed in." So
too small of a town not to get caught like that for a couple
yes,
times.
yeah, we were so dumb. So this is kind of a theme for the show. I ask all my guests is, Shane, what is your earliest musical memory?
Oh my gosh, my earliest musical memory is probably my mom singing to me. My mom played piano and throughout my entire life, and she sang. Probably one of my earliest childhood memories was her singing Ave Maria in church, and nailed it, by the way. So,
Yeah.
which is like one of the hardest songs on the planet to sing. But that's probably my earliest childhood memory from music is my mom singing when I was little bitty, and then that Ave Maria in church, that stands out as a major musical memory for me as a kid. If she played piano, and we would, at one point in my life, my mom had grand piano or a baby grand piano or she always had like a piano, and for a while she had like grand pianos and crap like that, and me and my brother would argue about if she dies, you got to take it, because that thing, you need 40 people to lift it. Like you would have. It's not something that's gonna go to mom's and get her piano. No, it's a whole endeavor, costs a bunch of money. So yeah, that's been a big part of my life.
Gotcha.
Music in the house like that.
It's interesting. A lot of guys our age, our first musical memories was church music, and because it was mine and yours. When did you start finding rock and roll? When did you find punk? I know you were a punk guy.
Oh yeah, big time. I found punk early, or it found me, one of the two, in the early 80s. My stepdad was clergy, and he wanted to go to seminary in the early 80s in a place called Sewanee, Tennessee, which is in the middle of the Appalachian Mountains, like smack dab in the Tennessee wing of Appalachia. And there's a school up there called the University of the South. And the University of the South has a seminary and then also a boarding school, like for high school, junior high and high school kids boarding school. And kind of the deal at the University of the South is if you are a Southern aristocrat and your dumb fuck kid gets kicked out of Harvard or Yale or Princeton or something like that, they make you go to the University of the South, and you have to be on. There's an honor code. Like professors to this day, they teach class in tapping down, and our whole professorhood thing is on display. And
okay,
every kid has to go to school in suit and tie, like jacket and tie rather. They don't have fraternities there. They have Scottish drinking societies. So it's all like very like hoity, Southern aristocratic, and very bizarre. To me, it was
gotcha.
bizarre. But the thing about it is because of the nature of that university, and you had to kind of be a misfit to go there, as well as St. Andrews, the boarding school. When you go to church, you were surrounded by misfits. And I realized early on, like, I'm not the only thug in here. Huh, interesting. And my stepbrother Noel came for, I don't know if it was summer break or Christmas break or something like that. He lived in Nashville. We were living in Sewanee, which is like an hour past Chattanooga for anybody out there who knows that country. And he's like, what are you listening to these days? And I put on a mixtape that I made off the rock radio, and I'm like, heavy metal, and turned on Scorpions and blah, blah. And I'm like, Scorpions, man. And he's like, why are you listening to this crap? And I'm like, what do you mean? It's not crap. This is genius, man. Let's listen to this. It's amazing. He's like, what are you listening to it for? Because it's loud and guitars are heavy and pissed off, and that guy's singing about dicks. Awesome. He's like, what's awesome about that? It's like the aggression of it. And he's like, oh, you like aggression, huh? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, listen to this. Put a tape of his in. It was a Dead Kennedy. And I'm like,
nice.
What the fuck is this? Holy crap. And that was it for me. I was hooked. I think 2 weeks later I was going to school with Liberty spikes and trench coats and stuff like that on sixth grade. What was that? 1986, 84, 85, something like that. I don't remember exactly, but
okay.
So yeah, got into punk rock in a weird place at a weird time, and it by the time I got to Kansas, back to Ottawa, we were 30 minutes from the Outhouse, which back in our day there was a punk rock club, and I got into that as soon as I could.
Past interviews, you mentioned that your first show there was Toxic Reason, Sloppy Seconds, and KGB in 1988. Was that your first concert ever, too?
No, no.
What was your first show?
First concert? Well, like I said, my mom was a musician. My stepdad, pre and during and post every seminary and all that, was also a musician. He was actually a professional musician in the 60s. It was signed to CBS Records, and so I grew up with my mom playing piano and him playing guitar, and he was in a band and crap like that. So like my first concerts were going to see the old man play in the KKOW band,
Heck yeah.
the radio station they worked for. They go around and play in different remote things and whatnot. But that's probably the first concert I ever saw was my stepdad and his dumb country cover band from 1970, whatever it was, 77, 8, 9, something like that. I don't know, somewhere around in there.
Is that why you started playing guitar? Because he did, or was it?
It was around all the time. Guitars were just laying around. It was easy to start. In that band that he played in back then, there was a guy in that band named Jeff Clark who had, and it's the first time I ever heard about him like this, he had a master's degree in guitar. And I don't remember what university he got it from, but the old man was also huge into bluegrass, and he was like the first lead stage MC. He did it forever. He did it till he died at the Winfield bluegrass flat picking national champion. I went to that every year when I was a kid. Like I grew up around people like Tony Wright and
Gotcha.
Harry Chapin and people like that. Like just huge bluegrass Americana folk artists that were people that hung out with the old man.
Yeah.
So there was always guitars
Very
around,
cool.
there was always music around, and by the time I was like 11 or 12, probably, I was starting to plank things out. By the time I was probably 14, I was in a punk rock band called Zeck.
Now, do you play other instruments?
Play a little bit of harmonica, a little
Okay.
bit. I can tap a beat out on a drum kit, but I'm not a drummer at all.
Gotcha. What was the first piece of physical music media that you bought?
Queen's Greatest Hits.
Queen's Greatest
Queen's
Hits.
Greatest Hits was the first album I ever bought. In the early 80s, Queen was the end-all, be-all. And I didn't know at the time he was dying, but when Farm Aid came on and the famous Queen set happened, we were watching. Like I said, music was a big deal in my house. Like we set aside Farm Aid. We watched the whole thing, like glued to the TV, and then Queen came on, because if I remember right, it was an unannounced thing, and it was like, ladies and gentlemen, Queen. We're like, oh my God! And then shortly after that, I went out and bought out the first Queen. I can't remember where I was at, in a mall somewhere, I don't remember, but first Queen album I saw in the music store, I was like, that's mine. Bought it for, I think, $2.50. $2? If that's, I'll whatever. I don't care if it's $20. I'll buy it anyway.
Yeah.
This is an outrageous amount of money for me in the 70s or whatever that was, or 80, whatever that was, 80 something.
I had no idea that was an unannounced thing. that Queen was there.
Well, it was, at least my family was unaware, but
Gotcha.
like I said, we were like anticipating that. The whole family had set aside time to watch it, and I remember like Queen, oh my God, I remember it being like a holy smokes, big deal kind of thing. So that was, I don't know, rock and roll has always been a part of my life in some fashion. Music in some fashion has been a part of it always. But yeah, that Queen's Greatest Hits was the first record I ever bought.
Nice. What were some of those other punk bands that after you got the Dead Kennedys in you, what were some of those other punk bands from that era that you really love?
Well, what's funny is, do you remember the movie Repo Man?
Yeah.
So my stepbrother Noel, Noel Murray is his name, and he's actually kind of if you're into movie critics, he's a famous movie critic.
Okay.
He writes for AV magazine and just about every single entertainment magazine you can imagine he's had articles in. But he gave me that tape, and one side was a couple of Dead Kennedys albums, and the other side was the Repo Man soundtrack. So, and that was like Circle Jerk from Black Flag and Fear and like a whole bunch of early punk rock, and that's what I got into early on, with the bands that were on that tape and that soundtrack, and gravitated towards that hardcore punk thing well up into my 20s, like mid to late 20s.
You mentioned that you saw Hawkwind at one time, and that I assume that was post Lemmy. I didn't know Lemmy from Motorhead was in there like in the 70s, and he was all methed out, and they were like, "Nah, dude, we don't want to do that. We want to do this."
yeah. He's trying to take it a different direction. I think. Yeah. I saw Hawkwind. Hawkwind did like a last tour, I don't know, back in the early 90s. And I saw him at the Bottleneck in Lawrence, and the opening band was Sleep. My roommate came home. We were all working. I worked a restaurant job back then, and then I also worked shows for, gosh, what was it called back then? Before it was Mammoth Productions, but I can't remember what it was called back then. But I was working shows for them, Jeff Fortier and that outfit, and my roommate, Doug, we were in a band at the time, Creeper, and, or no, this was before Creeper. Right after Slackjaw, we were roommates, and he was working at the Bottleneck and had watched the Hawkwind and Sleep sound check. Came home to make a sandwich and, whatever, get ready to go back to the Bottleneck for the whole night. He's like, "Dude, you gotta come. You gotta come check out this opening band. You'd love it." And he knew I was like into like slow, sludgy punk rock stuff anyway. He's like, "You gotta check these guys out." And I'm like, "Oh man, well, who is it?" And he's like, "I don't know, Sleep or Slipped or something." I'm like, "I've never heard of them." He's like, "No, I don't think anybody's heard of them. They're brand new. Like they sound brand new."
Right.
I'm like, all right, I'll come check it out. And I went down there, and I'm standing right in front of the stage watching this. They're all coming on stage. It's all dark and foggy, and they start playing Feedback. And I walk away. I was starting to walk away, and my buddy Doug's like, "No, wait, you gotta wait." I'm like, "Fuck, dude, I've seen this band before. I've seen the Feedback band before. I'm done. I'm going home. This is dumb." And as I'm starting to walk away, he's like, "All right, you're gonna miss it." They drop in, boom, 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 and I'm like, "What is this?" Turn back around and watch them. Like, holy crap! And I couldn't believe what I was watching. Changed my life musically. That show changed my life.
Did it? How so?
Well, I saw Sleep. Okay, so prior to that, the Outhouse, we had been exposed to Clutch and Caius came on. This is like huge stoner rock bands, but Caius came on tour with the Dwarves that played at the Outhouse as a regular part of their tour circuit. And they brought this, we were told was desert rock band from the desert of California is on tour with them because they're both on Sub Pop at the time.
Yeah.
I think Caius was on for about 15 minutes. They came to the Outhouse and blew my mind. And then Clutch had been playing, like they played Give Me the Keys, that song by Clutch, Give Me the Keys, off a couple albums ago. that song is about an incident at the outhouse that they played a hardcore fest back in whatever 90, 91. I was there. I was at that show, and so like I had been exposed to Clutch and Caius and St. Vitus play at the outhouse, Monster Magnet play at the outhouse. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff like that. And then in the same night, I saw Sleep, who had just put out their first record, and in the same night, Hawkwind. So I just like incredibly heavy, and then this incredibly esoterically psychedelic band. My mind was blown. I was like, this is a thing. This is
very cool.
This is something that you can do. Music can do that. That's bananas to me. And the things that they were doing sonically, rhythmically, emotionally, both of those bands just turned something on to me. I'm like, wait a minute.
Okay.
And then we started Creeper, probably maybe a month after that. And Creeper was probably one of the very first stoner rock bands. And in that time, it was Creeper and then a band called Holy Ghost. And that band had Brandon Fitzsimmons in it, which was later became Wormwood. He went on to do a band called Wormwood.
Okay.
And then he went on to start a band called Samos Race. And Samos Race in our scene was humongous for a while. So honestly, dude, the cradle of the stoner doom, stoner rock, desert rock, man, a lot of that came through and influenced Lawrence, Kansas early, myself included, early.
Gotcha. I did not realize that. I knew a lot of those bands came through, but I didn't realize how much influence they had on you guys in that scene.
And not just me, man. I mean, it's a crazy thing, but it definitely changed the landscape of music, at least for the circle of people that I was in. And today, that genre is swiftly taking over metal.
Yeah.
There's a band called Castle Rat that's coming out of our scene that is literally taking over. Like they're jumping on humongouszoid tours and festivals all over the world with major metal bands, and they're getting ready to show the world what's going on with our scene. And what's going on is awesome, incredible stuff.
Very cool. So before we start talking about They Watch Us from the Moon, your current project, was Slackjaw your first like band that was like doing shows and gigs and all that?
At that pace, yeah. I was in a band in high school that lasted for like maybe a year or so after high school that we were playing shows and stuff like that.
Okay.
So I wasn't like it wasn't completely foreign to me, but Slackjaw definitely took off in a way that like, I just hung on for the ride, man. I just showed up and played guitar for that band and learned as much as I can. I paid attention to what was going on, and I was not the guy in charge of that band, and there were people in that band that were in it years before I got into it, so I just played guitar and learned mostly, some wild shit.
Wild shit, huh?
Well, we were all outhouse punks, I mean, and this was back in the 90s, and crazy things happened, and it was violent and ugly and visceral and just absolutely insane at times.
Yeah, that's what I feel like some of the music of today is missing.
Danger.
Yeah, that visceral experience. People that haven't been through that, these younger kids that haven't experienced that. I don't know. It's just something you can feel in the older music, and the guys that have been around doing it. It's something that's real.
Everything dangerous that you see at a concert on stage these days is staged.
Yeah.
Marketing. It's all staged. You see somebody throwing out big violent symbology or emotionality or whatever in their show, and that's just all, bullshit.
Yeah.
But back in our day, we had bands like Cockneys, who, if you went to their show, there was a good chance somebody maybe you was going to get stabbed.
Okay.
And that's the way it was back then. I mean, it's crazy to say that, but We opened up for Cocknooth one time at a place downtown in Lawrence, and the owner of the place put up chicken wire because he was terrified that the band Cocknooth was going to have their way with the crowd. It wasn't the chicken wire wouldn't keep the crowd away from the band. It would keep the band on the fucking stage so they didn't kill anybody who was in the crowd.
Okay.
I mean, it was just bananas. I don't know if everybody's ever heard of that band, but they were from Lawrence, Kansas. They pretty much were the handful of bands that reinvented dangerous punk rock.
Okay.
And they weren't alone. There was a lot of bands like that, just absolutely shocking bands that they had a lot to say, and a lot of it was fuck you.
Yeah. Well, then tell me about, I want to hear you tell the story. You've told me this personally, but I want you to tell everybody the story about you were in a band called Truth Cell, and you guys opened for GWAR at the Granada. I want you to finish this story for me.
If you've ever seen GWAR, what you have seen is anybody who's opening up that show takes a lot of shit. And a lot of times bands get booed off stage, canted off stage after a couple of songs. And that's just kind of the stick at a GWAR show. So we knew going in, like, you kind of got to out-stick GWAR to hang on stage with them. This was probably 2 weeks or so, maybe a month after Columbine. And incidentally, the whole Columbine thing was a part of their show at the same time as well. But this was at the Granada. We were in the wings getting ready to go on. It was like 900 people in the place, and half of the band hadn't really even, like, maybe played a handful of shows ever, but had never played to, like, over 20 or 30 people. Right. And our bass player was, like, literally shivering, terrified. And we were all huddled on the side of the stage. We're like, we're good, man. We're good. We all know it. We're good. We're good. And the lead singer for the support band, which was Godhead, came over, and he poked his head in our huddle, and he goes, hey, guys, don't freak out if they boo you. It's just kind of a thing. So, like, don't freak out. Like, we're like, get the fuck out of here, man. Fucking hometown, bro. We got it. Thank you. Thank you. We don't need to be hearing that right now. Thank you.
Yeah,
we got dude over here literally trying not to shit himself. And you're like, you're going to get booed. Fuck up. And he didn't know we knew. One, that's my hometown crowd. Like, we were well known at this point, and starting to make a name. And that was back when the Granada had the two go-go dancer catwalk platforms, left and right. Never sure how to get into this part of the story without making myself look like an absolute fucking lunatic, but here we go.
Hey, just,
Stage left, we had a friend of ours, was a very attractive lady, and she had an American flag that had our name on it, the logo on it. The other side was my buddy, I'm going to use his handle, with Oddball, and we called him that because he'll do shit like this. I just got him the idea. He was like, totally, I'll do it. So he was in the other, Oddball was in the other catwalk platform, and he was dressed in all black, and he had an AK-47, but it had blanks in it. And we play this absolute ripping set. We didn't give the crowd chance enough to breathe, much less try to boo us. I mean, we just slammed it in their fucking face, nailed it. Our bass player held it together just fine. And we were hollering and screaming during songs and, leading up to what we were going to do. We got to our last song, and I gave this little soapbox speech about how shitty the whole Columbine thing was, and we're all going to make it through what's going to happen to our country. We've all got to stick together, and the only way to survive the oncoming onslaught, very predictive here, right? Prophetic of me, but only way to survive the onslaught of madness together is to join the troop. And Chick jumps up and unfurls the flag, and my buddy Oddball jumps up and unloads a magazine of blanks in the crowd. And third of the crowd totally got what was going on, and they're like screaming and yelling, shoot me. Yeah. And the third of the crowd hit the floor like total panic, and then a third of the crowd bolted. Boom, out the door. And we went through the rest of the song and end it with a big crescendo of madness and slam our shit down and walk off stage, and the crowd just bananas, like bananas. And I reach over to flip my shit off and toss my guitar off, and Dave Brocky, who was Odorous Orungus from GWAR, in the wings of the slow clapping.
Nice.
I mean, he was like, "That's the craziest thing I ever saw. I can't believe you did that. You just totally out-GWAR'd us." I'm like, thank you, sir.
Thank you,
He's
sir.
like, "Dude, when we're done, you need to come to my bus, and I'm going to have a talk with you." I'm like, "Okay." And after they were done, I gave him about 15 minutes, and I knocked on the bus door, and he came in half in costume, and he's like, come on in. Fired up a joint, and he had a list, 2 pages of paper, a list, like, well, Monday morning, you call this guy, and then you tell him I sent you, and then you call this dude, and then you call that guy, and and then that kind of set me off on like, oh, here's how the industry works. Thanks, Dave. I was like, thank you. Wow. Great.
Wow.
So, and then after that, Truth Still took off. But the funniest thing was I got a call that next morning from the promoter, local promoter, and I don't know if I should mention her name or not, but he called me up the next morning and screaming mad at me. What do you know what you've done? I'm like, oh, yes, I do. What's happening on your end? He's like, I can't count 6 calls I've taken. You asshole, you said you were going to do that. And I said, yes, I did. I told you exactly what I was going to do. You just didn't realize I was going to do it. Because I told her, I was like, we're going to pull some sticks. It's going to involve blanks and a gun. She's like, okay, whatever. Blew it off. Didn't believe me. Whatever. I don't know what happened. But he apparently took dozens and dozens and dozens of phone calls from pissed off parents, and then ended that phone call with, don't ever do it again, promise? Like, yeah, I promise. Hey, you guys want to play with Hatebreed in 2 weeks? Like, yeah, sure.
I was going to ask you kind of what the aftermath to that story was, but
he kept booking us at big giant shows, and we eventually got to the point where we were putting 400 or 500 people in the bottleneck and playing big crowds everywhere we went. It was awesome. Stick works if it's done right.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, yeah. I mean, it would. That was like a huge trajectory for you to, have time with Dave and show you the ropes or give you some contacts and getting those big books.
Yeah.
Not getting booed at a GWAR show.
Amazing. I'm got to be. At that time, I don't know how it's like now. I haven't been to a GWAR show in years, but back then, at least, our band's got to be one of the very few people that ever made it through a whole show with them. Like, incidentally, too, Godhead, who is, they're a big giant band now.
Yeah.
They got booed off stage 2 songs into their set. They walked.
Did they?
Yep.
GWAR announced a show in April, I think, at Granada that I saw. Yeah. So there's some good shows coming through. Let's talk about They Watch Us from the Moon.
Okay.
Cosmic Stoner Doom. You guys have a comic. You have a comic. You made a comic book. Dave told me you have like this whole storyline with everything.
Yeah. It's a complete theatrical production.
Where'd this come from?
I love science fiction, and at heart, I'm probably more of a theater kid than anything else.
Okay.
Shout out Roger Silly, theater teacher from high school. Silly, that's his real last name. Cilley.
Silly.
Roger Silly. Fantastic human being. Opened my eyes to theater and that kind of thing. And I did like tech stuff, and I never did like plays and that kind of thing, but what it did is set me on an understanding of like how staging works, what blocking is, and theatrics in general. When I was in high school, Phantom of the Opera was huge on Broadway. I'm like a huge smack hit on Broadway. And we were talking about Phantom of the Opera in theater class. And he's like, I wish I could present Phantom of the Opera in a full-size PA and not just a little bitty jam box. The little bitty jam box, it doesn't do it justice. If I just had a full PA system that I could play this for you guys on, it would change your heart and mind about theater. And I raised my hand. I was in rock and roll bands at this time. I was in punk rock bands. I had a PA. I raised my hand like, hey man, I have a PA. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I'm in a band. I play shows all the time. Got to have your own PA. I have a PA. He's like, you have a PA? Like, yeah, I just got to run down to our jam spot and grab it. He was like, when can you have it? I'm like, I can have it tomorrow. I mean, it's mine. Just go down there and get it. He was like, oh, let me arrange it. So he arranged a day in the auditorium in school. And I got to get out all of my classes to run my PA and play, back then it was a tape, play a tape of Phantom of the Opera for all of his theater classes. Man, if you've never heard Phantom of the Opera at 200 decibels.
I have not.
You haven't heard it yet. Because there's so much going on with those voices and that organ. Whoa,
okay.
Crazy. So, yeah, I guess that's where it all comes from, is like science fiction and love of theater and movies and things of that nature, I suppose.
Gotcha. Now, the first couple releases, like you had Moon Doom, that was in 2020. When did you get this idea for They Watch Us from the Moon, and how did that all kind of transpire? And
by 2018, my kid was kind of at a place in his life where he was doing things, gone on his own, Boy Scouts and that kind of stuff. And like, I sat alone. I was like, I'm bored.
Yeah.
I'm going to do something.
Yeah.
He's gone all the time. He's doing stuff. Or he was at a time where he just wanted to, play video games or whatever. He'd hang out, play video games or go to Boy Scouts or that kind of stuff. So I was bored and I was like, I got to do something. So I put together a band, and it just kind of blossomed into this need to create as much as possible. It fits into my whole midlife crisis ordeal, which is I got to blur it out as much as I can before I die. Leave my I was here, goddamn it,
Right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's how I want to express myself in old age, and I want to go out playing rock and roll and a part of something that was fun and creative and an escape,
Yeah. Now, did you re-record the Cosmic Chronicles Act 1, or did you just remaster it? What did you do that?
I haven't touched it. I haven't done anything with it. It is as it is. It's out there. There's probably a few copies of vinyl left for sale, but you can always get it digitally on Bandcamp and stuff like that. But
okay, so you're working on new stuff right now, then?
We're working on new stuff.
Okay, that's my bad. I thought, okay.
That's the studio stuff you saw a little clip of.
Yeah, that you let me hear a few weeks ago.
Right. We're working on a new EP.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, when is that going to be done?
Yeah. Hopefully summer. That's what we're shooting for. The tracking is almost done, and then there's art and a bunch of other rigmarole you gotta prepare. And
yeah, what did you call it? What did you tell me that you call it when you call it the Doom Magic or the Doom Dust or
Doom Candy?
The Doom Candy. That's what it is. Yeah, you're like, we got to get in there and get all the Doom Candy put in. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, which is like a lot of like harmonizing vocals and sound effects and little things you got to really listen to for headphones back in the background.
Yeah. No, I love that stuff. Pair of headphones, maybe a little hit of LSD or something. I don't know.
Go blow it off to Mars. Yeah. There's so many like subliminal things hidden in all the music so far. There's going to be even more like little Easter eggs and band lore and, information and stuff like that. It all fits into the conspiracy theory of We're Not Alone.
Yeah.
And there's, the dawn of time, there's always been a speculation of what's up there. You can see it. It's right there.
Yeah.
And since there have been telescopes, which is like the 1700s, there have been people that have witnessed sparkling lights and phenomenon on the surface of the moon. And there's all kinds of stories from astronauts and different National Space Institutes from around the world. And there's a lot of conspiracy theory about it. There is a lot of secret society lore about the moon. There's tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of folklore and historical things that involve the moon, like cycles of the moon and prophecies and predictions. And our entire human history has dealt with the surroundings of the moon, including there are tribes of people so old in this world. There are tribes of people in the deepest parts of Africa and the deepest parts of South America that have ancient tribal stories about the Earth before there was a moon.
Yeah.
So this whole thing just fascinates me to the point where it's just a part of like my creative structure. It's like going on up there. What in the hell is going on up there? Even if you bought every single word that NASA ever said about the moon as fact and true, like oh, fascinating stuff. But if you look past the facade of all that, man, there's some weird stuff. When, like, for example, all the astronauts came back from the moon, like the first round of astronauts that Aldrin and all them and Armstrong and whatever, you would think they'd be elated that they made it. They didn't blow up in space or
no shit,
perish on the surface of the moon, but they made it back there. You'd think that they would be like, oh my God, we made it. You think they'd be in like a good mood, back in suit and tie and back on Earth where it's safe and whatnot. And you would think that they would be ecstatic about the first people to ever touch the moon. And like there's all this history that they had just, if you go watch the interview footage of them, like right after that mission, they are dour.
Mm.
They are depressed. They are dour. They are quiet. The interviewers and the press there have to ask them questions numerous times to pull it out of them. And a lot of times they're just shaking their head like they don't want, like looking down at their desk, like they don't want to talk about it. You can see it on their face. Like it's the last thing they want to talk about. What's on the moon. And if you go watch that footage, very telling that what you think went on up there is not what actually went on up there. And then there's a whole tribe of people in the world that they faked it.
Well, yeah.
Well, possibly, but we have a whole bunch of evidence that says that they didn't either.
Right. And then I always kind of look at how many people have to be involved in that large of a conspiracy to keep that shit quiet for that many years. I mean,
there would have been so many deathbed confessions by now.
Yeah. I mean, the most conspiracies happen on a local level in your government and things like that. Not that, but that's very interesting stuff.
To keep that quiet, you would have had to have murdered everybody as they walked out of the studio the last day, and that didn't happen. We know that didn't happen. And then one day a whole studio of people disappeared. Like that would have come out.
Yeah. So can I assume your fascination of the moon and all that stuff is incorporated into your lyrics and the lore of the band and things like that?
Yeah, so I go there's a lot of ancient history between Sumeria and Egypt and Babylon and like all these like ancient cities and people that have stories about the Anunnaki, like these ancient group of people that came from a different planet, same solar system. Their planet orbits the sun in an egg shape as we're going around the center. They're going around in an elliptical shape other direction.
Okay.
And they're on this is what the ancient Sumerians say, that their orbit around the sun takes a couple thousand years, and they're out there floating in space majority of the time. And incidentally, NASA a couple of years ago reported a brand new red dot in the same elliptical orbit that's out there in the outer regions of our solar system. And they saw it because it's moving this way. So,
Gotcha.
Planet X or Nibiru or whatever, it's a bunch of different titles and conspiracy theories about this thing. These stories about the Anunnaki and creation of mankind and all these different religions and cultures that believe in these beings that created humanity. Christians believe it. They just don't call it Anunnaki. They call it something else, but the same story.
Okay.
But yeah, that kind of stuff just, a lot of that's ancient history. We know certain things are fact about Babylon and Iraq and ancient Sumeria and Egypt, and there's just fascinating correlations between these cultures and different things around the world. South America, different temples and pyramids are finding all over the world, not just Middle East and South America. They're popping up all over the world. Like, there's so much historical evidence to prove that the story that we think is a story that's not the story. That's a bizarre scratch of the surface of the story that's the actual story. The actual story is something completely different. The origins of humans. I don't believe King James had a grasp on that kind of history. I don't. He had no idea what he was talking about. You know what I mean?
I agree with you 100%.
Having, like I covered earlier, my old man was a clergyman, so we were inundated with this kind of Bible and scripture, and theology, da-da-da-da-da. Little did they know when I was growing up and getting curious about that kind of thing, the Bible wasn't the only thing I was reading. I was reading other stuff. I was investigating other things. Like, you ever read the Orthodox Bible, the Coptic Bible?
No.
It's the actual true, what would be considered the true Bible, like the first Bible ever written for Christianity, is the Orthodox Church, the Coptic Church.
Not this put together thing.
No. King James got a hold of the original Coptic Bible, and they realized that if they wanted to turn Western culture into Christians, that they needed to follow what King James wanted them to follow and not what Jesus wanted them to follow.
Absolutely.
So a lot of that shit got changed around, like that part in Leviticus in the King James version of the Bible that says, all the homophobes point to is things right here in the Bible. It says you're not supposed to, a man shall not lay with another man, blah, 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 blah. Well, in the actual Bible, in the real Bible, in the Coptic Orthodox Bible, what that very same passage says is, don't fuck kids.
Yeah.
Which is a huge difference.
Yeah.
In meaning, which was King James, I'm not too sure I'm ready to give up fucking kids.
Right.
But I don't want to be gay about it. So let's put that part in there.
Yeah.
But we won't mention the kid fucking. So when you start to realize, hey, wait a minute, this is all horse shit. What else in here is horse shit? Well, Genesis is horse shit, and that's Revelations is all horse shit. And it's not that it's not historically, different things in Revelations and the different letters of the apostles and whatnot. You can trace a lot of that stuff back to historical documents. But as far as like what the King James version of the Bible says about anything is bullshit. And you can see where it's gotten us today with a bunch of fucking goose-stepping MAGA punks.
Yeah.
That's where we're at. And that's where King James got us. Fuck them motherfuckers. Sorry.
No, man. It's your time.
Those folks are dangerous and they're waving that Jesus flag, and that's even worse. As I can tell you, I'm not particularly Christian these days, but from my understanding of my upbringing is that Jesus had no plans for war, ever.
No. And then going back to what you said, for me, talking about all the science and the moon and the solar system, and, to me, it just doesn't jive. The Bible wants to say the world is about 6,000 to 10,000 years old. And as a kid, I was like 13, 14, like you're talking about. And you're like, yeah, nah, that's not jiving with what, So, yeah. So, Shane, I know music is your love and it's your passion. And besides playing in bands and doing your own thing, I know you're really passionate about helping new bands.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads us into the Midwest Doom Coalition, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes. The MDC. Yeah, the Midwest Doom Coalition is way out of the Midwest now. We've got chapters all over the country.
Nice.
12 or 13, some chapters, and some of those chapters involve multiple states. But the Midwest Doom Coalition is a networking and development platform apparatus for bands that are trying to get heard. A lot of people don't realize, how hard it is to be a band, to make music, to be creative. You can sit in your basement and be creative all day long, but if you want people to hear it, or you want to be a musician that sells records, God forbid. I know a lot of people are like, music's not about money. Bullshit.
Gotta eat.
Gotta eat.
Yeah.
Don't yuck my yum because I want to make money playing guitar. I
100%.
sit down with a whole bunch of people and explain how silly that is. There's the thing about Lawrence that a lot of Lawrence bands, different genres, and I think this is something about being Midwestern that have a hard time promoting themselves. They feel weird about it.
Yes.
And they don't know how to do it without coming off weird about it.
Yeah.
And I don't give two shits about any of that.
Okay.
So the Midwest Doom Coalition is a platform for people that aren't scared to promote themselves. It's a platform for people to find any type of resource that they need to be a band. Like I said, people don't realize how hard it is. Like, there are people that grind and grind and grind and grind in a band weekly in their basement with their friends, sharpening and honing their craft for years and years and years, can't get a gig, or might play maybe 2 gigs their entire time they're a band. And they're a band for 5-6 years, and they've only played 2 gigs. Not because they don't want to. They don't know how to. There's nobody knocking on your door asking you to play their show.
No one's going to pick you.
Nobody's going to pick you. And new music, people don't listen to new music. They don't, maybe 2% of the population of music fans seek new music, but most people don't. And if you're not waving your flag about what kind of music you're making, nobody's ever going to hear it. So the Midwest Doom Coalition is a platform for people to be accepted when they wave their flag. And then they also learn better ways on how to wave their flag, content and marketing and promo presentation and things of that nature. We help each other get gigs. If you're a band that's never played a gig before, there's a chapter near you that will, if you're in our genre, stoner, doom, desert rock, stoner rock genre, there's a chapter near you and you fit in that genre. I guarantee you, I know 5 people in your area that will help you get your first, second, third, fourth, fifth go.
Nice.
And then you're off and running. So we're trying to flip the script. We've pretty much done it in the areas in which we are operating in. That it's not difficult to network with other bands anymore. It's not difficult to network for shows anymore if you're working the system. It's not difficult to find who you need for T-shirts, stickers, tour advice.
Okay.
It's kind of an amazing thing. It's helped a lot of people. All across the country.
Yeah. Like you said, the average music fan doesn't know how hard it is to be a band, much less be in a band, sound like your album does when you're on stage. They have no idea. So I think this is very, very admirable. What would you say to somebody who has a hard time promoting themselves? What would you tell them on that end?
Like, I would say if they're a part of our genre, to join what we're doing, which is building a community. But if you are at something else, find that community. I guarantee you, somewhere on the internet, somewhere downtown in your town, somewhere that you have yet to investigate, there is a pocket of people doing the thing in which you want to do. Find them and build that community.
Yeah.
Part of what's wrong with our culture right now is that very thing I just said terrifies a lot of people. Like, I gotta leave the house, talk to people. If you want to get anywhere in life, yeah, you do. You have to, especially with music or art. Yeah. If you don't tell anybody, if you're not waving your flag, nobody knows.
Yeah.
So that's what I build community. wherever you go. Our as a society, our third space is kind of gone, and people have forgotten about our third space. And for musicians, what you have to do is create that space in which you want to go and talk to, be around, and exist with other musicians. So you have to learn how to build a community around the thing that it is you're doing, and that's marketing. And you say that word like, I don't want to trick people. Like, you're not tricking anybody.
Nah, man.
You're just telling them, we're doing this cool thing. If you think it's cool, we're over here doing it.
Yeah.
That's all you're doing. But people get the ick about it, and it baffles me. I don't understand why that's a thing.
Interesting. So you've got the Stoner Doom Festival, the second one coming up. What is that, in March or April?
It's April 17th and 18th at the Bottleneck in Lawrence, and it is it's the Midwest Doom Coalition Stoner Doom Fest 2. We did one last year in Kansas City, and the headliners last year in Kansas City were Spirit Mother and Bongzilla, and this year it's a 2-day thing, and the Friday night headliner is High Desert Queen, which is from Austin, Texas, and they're ripping up the Stoner Doom scene right now. They're awesome. And then the Saturday night headliner, the direct support to headliner is Years of Cobra, and the headliner that night is an amazing, huge independent band from Canada called Dope Throne. And they're heavy hitters in our scene, and we're excited to have the whole thing happen. And I'm going to throw this out there. We're sponsored by Third Planet, downtown en masse in Lawrence.
Hell yeah.
And we're sponsored by Black Doomba Records out of Atlanta, Georgia. And we're going to be sponsored by Treehouse Drums out of Topeka, Kansas, who's going to supply a drum kit for the whole endeavor. We're working on it being an annual big deal. We want people to travel here and fill up hotels downtown and come see this amazing show.
Hell yeah, man. Very cool.
Tons of local and regional acts on these bills too. So it's a lot of fresh new talent on this thing.
Well, and then what does it take to make something like that happen? Put that show together?
Man, there's so many components that go to do with that. You just can't lay out all you got to do is, I mean, I've been booking shows for 30 years, so it's kind of second nature, but to tell somebody how to start doing it.
Well, I think it's more from just your reaction is how difficult it is, and that's why people, they buy a ticket, they show up, and they just don't have that appreciation for what went into making that happen. So I have a huge appreciation for the bottom up to the walking out of the show, man. It's phenomenal. So that's amazing that you've put that together.
Well, thank you. It's a lot of hard work by a lot of different people when we do stuff like that. I got a whole crew of people involved in the production, and not just in the Midwest Doom Coalition, but Bottleneck people and Mammoth Entertainment people, and
yeah,
it's an endeavor. And it's especially a 2-day thing. And not to sound weird about it, but you can't walk into a venue and say, "Hey, I'm going to throw a 2-day festival here," and a little laugh in your face. You got to be able to have a little bit of resume to be able to do that. And put it together. I've been booking shows forever and ever and ever. Took a break to raise my kid. When I got back into it, the whole thing was different. I had to relearn how everything's put together and what the different angles are these days. And that took me 4 or 5 years alone to put that whole thing together, to understand how each individual agent works, their expectations, or whatever, how to relay that to venues. And everybody wants to get a deal, and it's hard to navigate perception of the deal between a band and a club and the promoter and the other bands. And, it's just sometimes a ridiculous endeavor, but for whatever reason, I can't stop myself from doing it.
It's your love, man. It's your passion, dude. It shows. Yeah. I remember the first time, it was either the first or second inspection I did on the house. We got to talking so much. I didn't even fill out the report. I walked out of the place, and I'm standing, I'm like, I didn't even go over the report with Shane. We just finished the inspection. We just talked so much that I totally forgot about it. So
that's funny.
Let's kind of change things up a little bit. You don't get to be your age and live the rock and roll life without some ups and downs.
Yeah.
Can you share a time with me that felt especially heavy or uncertain?
Well, I mean, I think, man, that's a heavy question.
It is.
When my kid was about 7 years old, his mom just bounced. He battled mental illnesses and addiction disorders and things of that nature, and we thought we were doing everything that we were supposed to be doing to make her comfortable and happy, and it didn't work, and he bounced. And the aftermath of that was all of a sudden a single dad, and I raised my kid pretty much by myself up until high school. I had a partner that was incredible with that and being a mom to him. But if you have never had to restart your life in the middle of your life, especially when you've had some success at your life, and then all of a sudden you're back to stage one, that's what divorce does to you. It puts you back at stage one. No matter what you've done before. That's what it did to me anyway. Put me back at stage one. And the fight I had to go through with life to keep my kid going forward, because he had just experienced the tragedy of losing his mom. No matter how you sugarcoat what happened, he was abandoned by his mother.
He was.
That's a different hit on somebody than when your dad leaves. When your mom leaves, that's something else. Especially when you're young like that, because you still have that physical bond. Like little kids need to touch their mom. They have to.
Yes.
And if you don't get that, it messes you up. And, persevering through his childhood was probably the hardest thing I ever had to do. And I realized that getting on the other side of that, I had to become greater than myself to provide something that was a legacy for him. I needed to have something that he could look back about his parents and go, hey, my dad did this kind of thing. My dad did that. Because I didn't want him to go through life with the biggest memory of his parents. Like when somebody asked me, what's your parents like? Oh, my mom was an addict and left us and blah, blah, blah. I want him to look back on his thoughts about a parent and say, my dad does stuff. He perseveres. He moves on.
Yes, he does.
And that type of example has been healthy for him, because now as a 20-year-old kid, for vacation and crap like that, he does dog sled trips around the Arctic Circle and crap like that. He's been going to school in Denmark. He's a world traveler. He's been to Europe numerous times for education. He's an amazing young man. Realizing where you're at zero, and the way to get back to yourself is to be greater than yourself. And work towards that endeavor as much as you can, as much as I could anyway. And that definitely changed the trajectory of our life. By the time he hit high school, I had recovered. I was not for stage one anymore. I was doing stuff. Killer job and great life and wonderful family and partner and home. And, there was a lot of times in his youth where he didn't know, but it was rough. He had he ate, got anything he wanted. I'd scratch and kill overtime to bloody death to get him whatever he needed, wanted, or desired, and made sure he ate as much as he needed and growing boy needs. And, ground myself down for that. But
Yeah.
you have to go through that to get beyond that and become greater than yourself. And that's kind of where I'm at now. I feel like I'm at this point in my life, I'm building a legacy for my kid, for grandkids, things of that nature, to leave something behind that your family can look at and say, where'd we come from? Oh, your dad, your granddad, great granddad, that motherfucker rock and roll.
Hell yeah.
That's what he did. He did
Hell
that.
yeah.
Here's a record. Here's some video. So here's grandpa on stage with so and so.
Yeah.
And that's what I can offer as a legacy to my kid, my grandkids is that type of endeavor, creativity and perseverance, and hard work, but do it for something you love.
Yeah.
You can grind away for the man, but you also got to grind away yourself or you go crazy. You have to be better and bigger than yourself,
So when you say that, when you say greater than yourself, are you kind of like referring to, you could have just laid down, you could have been a victim, you could have just been like, woe is me. Is that what you mean by that?
Exactly. I will not lay down and die. And so many men, middle-aged men, when they go through a divorce, what they do is they lay down and die.
Yeah.
And then they have heart attacks at 50, whatever, something years old, and they're done.
Right.
And I'm not doing that.
No.
I'm not going to lay down and die. I'm not going to lose sight of myself because of that experience. You can't. You have to live. Once you're a parent, whether the child loses a parent or not, the parent that kid has, you have to lead by example. You have to persevere for that kid. You're now living for that kid, And even though my kid doesn't need me to feed him sandwiches anymore or get him ready for school or whatever, I look at it. I'm doing what I'm doing because I want to show my kid what perseverance looks like. When I'm dead and gone, and he goes and looks at my life, I want him to see, damn, Dad did some shit. Wow, look at that. He's aware, but he doesn't know all the details.
Yeah, for sure. How does all this correspond to being a house dad too, man? Like how many guys have you seen come and grow?
Man, I'm a professional life coach. It's crazy. Tons and tons. It's an amazing experience. I'm a part of my job is party planner and life coach. It's a wild thing. But I raised a successful kid.
Yes.
And I have a pretty good idea how to do that. And then a lot of times those guys, they need help. They're kids, they're teenagers. They need somebody there to go, hey, dude, hey.
Yeah.
Maybe hanging out the window half naked while you're drunk might be a terrible idea. You ever seen that headline in the paper, dumb shit, college kid falls out of a window and dies? Oh, yeah. Well, maybe you should go back inside. Okay, thanks. But stuff like that. Just being a dad, just doing it to like a bunch of dudes that are, they're on their own for the first time.
Yeah.
It's a wild. My job there is I don't restrict, I manage. Sometimes that management is I need to take you aside and explain to you the thing that you're doing right now will not only get you kicked out of the fraternity, but will also good chance you're going to die.
Yeah.
So knock it off. Or get arrested. So knock it off. Or whatever,
Yeah.
We lost a kid a couple of years ago, Michael Coletti, committed suicide. Good kid, such a wonderful kid, smart, man, he was brilliant. But he had a rough upbringing and we lost him. And after that, I was like, man, I gotta do check-ins more often with these kids. Even if they look fine, I'm gonna ask them, are you doing all right? And a lot of them are like, me? Like, yeah, you doing all right? And they'll talk, like they'll tell you, well, man, Sarah's mad at me and I got to flunk the math test. And like you find out, and then they kind of reveal the dumb decisions they're going to make because of all that. And you kind of steer them back to, maybe you should think about this or that or whatever, If I've had kids come to me like, I can't get it together, man. I cannot get my shit together no matter how hard I try, no matter what I'm doing. but it can't catch up. It can't get together. And I asked him, like, what time do you get up in the morning? He was like, what? What time do you get up in the morning? He's like, well, I just get up like 15 minutes before class and get on the bus and go. I'm like, well, there you go, buddy. Why don't you start getting up at 7 o'clock, no matter what? Get up for 3 weeks. Do me a favor. Get up at 7 a.m., set your alarm clock, get up at 7 a.m., get your shit together. Go to class on time. Tell me how that one action changes your life in 3 weeks. He came back in a month and he was like, dude, my grades went up. My girlfriend and I are back on track. All my work's caught up. I got a job. My internship, I scored an internship.
Nice.
And I was like, right. All you did was what? I started being responsible. I'm like, bingo. Sometimes all you gotta do is get up in the morning and go. And you're okay. When you start everything in a panic, your mind can't organize.
No.
Your chaos, panic. A lot of that is chef shit from restaurant days, like mise en place, things in place.
Yes.
Your brain can't organize if it sees chaos. You put your things in place, execute, go. So same kind of thing, but you're just showing a kid how to discipline their day and not their station.
Right. Well, I think it's awesome that you raise an amazing kid and then you get still, and then you also still get to use those skills in just your day to day with these guys. And I wonder, and not to talk shit on other, but I get to see a lot of things behind the scenes in my primary job. And I just wonder how much guidance our house moms giving guys. How much are they taking them by the ear and saying, "Hey, dude, don't be hanging out the window all drunk," or because sometimes they want to appease those kids and they want to be liked, and that's just my perception.
I have heard horror stories about the house mom experience at KU. I've heard of house moms being nailed shut in their rooms when they have parties they're not supposed to have, or there's hazing experiences going on they're not supposed to do. They lock the mom in the room. A lot of those house moms, like, they sign checks, they move money around, that kind of crap. But by and large, they're not in charge of anything. They have to answer when the fraternity does something they're not, or sorority does something they're not supposed to do, and they've got to report to the national chapter head. The house mom or house parent sometimes in those situations gets questioned or brought in or whatever, but by and large, a lot of those house parents are out of the picture. Not to say that some of those folks don't change lives all the same, but
100%.
But a lot of those fraternities, man, they're dangerous places. I know that sounds crazy, but ours is different. Ours is I don't want to get political about it, but these kids are from a culture that have to toe a different line.
Yes.
And I don't know how to explain it other than that without revealing too much, but
yeah, no, I think you're good.
Societal expectations on these kids are different.
Yeah.
So they have to maintain a different, higher standard. And things that pass in a regular fraternity, if you utter something dumb in that house, you're out. I got nothing to do with any of that.
Yeah.
That's their decision. There's been things happen in there I've been very proud of them for, because the wrong people snuck through the process and ended up putting people in danger, and the first thing that happened, your ass is out.
Yeah.
There's no forgiveness. We're not tolerating it. I saw stuff like that and I was like, yeah, this is the right thing. I was at a party one time because I help with their parties and help them plan their tailgates, and I work their big house parties and stuff like that, just security, dad on site kind of thing. And into one of these parties, one of the brothers was a sober monitor, and I'm Gen X, right? Like,
right.
I've learned a lot about generational differences between us and them, but at the time I was new and I didn't have the mindset. This kid educated me, and here's what happened. He was a sober monitor, and the party was kind of over, and there was a girl at the house who's like, they're called sweethearts. Like they're a part of the house. They're like mascots. If a guy can't find a date to take to a date party, the sweetheart goes with them. Kid has a birthday, he'll make them cupcakes. It's kind of a sweet thing. They're sweethearts, it's kind of a cool, like, thing.
Yeah.
And, this girl, sweetheart, she was liquored up. And, the kid was in the corner and this girl was all over him. I mean, like, all over him. And, he kept pushing her away, like, pushed her away a half a dozen times. And finally, she's like, whatever. And she walked off. And I kind of motioned to this kid. I'm like, come over here. What was that? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, you don't like girl? Like, dude, that girl was like giving you all the signals. Like, that was a go. What's the problem? Are you not into girls? He's like, no, she's totally hot. I'm like, well, what's the problem? He goes, I'm not inebriated. I was like, what? Like, she's drunk and I'm not. I can't take advantage of her.
Hell yeah.
Wow. I was like, what? I mean, I was proud of him, but at the whole same time, I was like, my reptilian 19-year-old brain was trying to wrap my head around, like, wait a minute. You're both at a party. He's at a party. You're at a party. You're both partying. You don't want to go do party things with that girl? Like, what are you thinking? But as he put it, it was like, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, holy crap. And that's probably one of the most noble things I've ever heard anybody say out front in public. Like, that wasn't in a movie.
Right.
I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. I'm like, okay. Right then and there, I'm like, I'm in. This is where I'm going to die. Okay. All right. I was amazed. I couldn't believe it. Like, wow.
That's awesome, man.
Still blows me away. What are you, Gandhi? Well, Gandhi was kind of a pervert. You know what I mean?
Well, most of those, man, we could just go on and on about all sorts of world figures and leaders as far as.
I know, right?
So Shane, talk to me about you've had a lot of positive influence on a lot of people's lives in a lot of different ways.
I hope so.
If someone listening right now is in the middle of their own tough time, what's one thing you would want them to know right now?
This is what I tell my kids, still do. This is what I tell all my kids everywhere. Move forward. Where the place you are now is not the place you will be if you move forward. Don't get stuck in your own mud. If you ever feel that you are trapped or suffocating, that's on you. That's nobody else. That is you. And all it takes is one foot in front of the other and try and move forward. And your life will change. And it's true. People get stuck. I know people. They're stuck.
Yeah.
And they never moved out of their moment. And that's my greatest advice to everybody that I deal with at work and my own kids, other bands. We can't do anything. What do we do? Move forward. Do something every day to put yourself one step forward.
Absolutely. That's awesome. I love that. Is there a piece of music or story that you return to when you need strength?
The Dead Boys, Young, Loud, and Snotty.
The Dead Boys, Young, Loud, and Snotty.
Yeah, that was their first album. The Dead Boys was the very first, like, punk, like, we are a punk rock band. They were from Detroit in the late 70s. They made their bones at CBGB's in New York.
Okay.
And they were rivals of the Ramones and that kind of thing. The Dead Boys were more dangerous.
Okay.
Div Baders was talking about stabbing somebody because he had just stabbed somebody. Like, he wrote a song about it.
Right.
He wasn't joking. And to me, that's like the original pissed off rock and roll that I found as a young punk rock kid. And I go back to that when I need that fuck the world.
Gotcha.
What's my purpose?
Who in your life has passed down a legacy to you that still nourishes you today?
My grandfather, Harold Macbeth, he was one of the last of the great American cowboys. I grew up in a cowboy family, and my grandfather, I spent every free moment I could cowboying as a kid up until he died. I was probably 12. I took care of the ranch after he died. That summer he died, my duty as a kid in the family was look after the ranch, make sure all the horses are fed, cattle counted and fed and whatever, watered and so on and so forth. Saddled my horse, go ride pastures, make sure all the calves are okay, the whole smear, 12-year-old kid. But the things that he passed down from the wisdom of that culture still stick with me today. And a lot of what I just said reflects and what I learned from him was get back on the damn horse.
Gotcha.
Move forward, get back on the horse. So you can't relay that kind of teaching to kids that don't understand cowboy culture, but to the ones that do, they understand it. But that's how I grew up, with that kind of work ethic and being proud of what you do and produce and what you can do and important stuff. I still think about him every day. He died in 1984.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He was a powerful influence on my life,
Yeah. Well, I would dare say that you're probably going to have people say that about you after you've been gone, my man.
I hope. Thanks, man.
So I had this question down I skipped over. So where'd you get the nickname The General?
An old bandmate. Okay, this guy, God, he was a total character. Everybody called him Death Metal Dan Kelly. That was his name, was Dan Kelly. And Dan has 666 tattooed on his throat right here. He's covered in tattoos. But this guy, in our scene for a while, he was an absolute menace. Drug addict. I mean, everybody back then was,
sure, we
were all terrible, some capacity. Dan was one of the worst. And Dan was 6'6", 350, shredding guitar player, killer guitar player. And he was in my band for a while. And nobody on the planet before me had ever told Dan Kelly no. Not only no, but shut the fuck up, no. Because he would come up with we'd be at shows like, hey, I'm going to blah, blah, blah. No, you're not, dude, shut up. No, we're not doing that. He'd come with whack-ball ideas or dangerous things to do, or we're doing these drugs, and then, no. So you're like, God damn, General. And so they all started calling me the General, because I was telling this fucking lunatic no all the time. Like, what is
right.
This is the military. I'm like, if you're in my band, apparently it is, because we're not doing that
right.
shit. We're not doing that shit. And just telling him no over and over and over got me that nickname. That's how it happened.
Gotcha.
And it stuck.
Okay.
I think it's hilarious. Like, okay.
Yeah, right.
I'm trying to keep you from killing yourself. If that's how you...
Right.
All right, fine.
Trying to keep it from being too wasted, man. Don't want to waste it being too wasted.
Or going to jail or dying. Yeah. We're not setting your rig up on the roof of the van and driving down the highway. No, we're not.
Just some obvious things, maybe. I don't know. But it was crazy times. Shane, what do you guys got going on right now? I know you got a New Year's Eve show coming up. You want to talk about that and then talk about any other projects you've got going on?
Yeah. New Year's Eve at the skate bar in Westport in Kansas City, Missouri. We're playing with the Bad Ideas, Redbeard Wall from Texas, and then Low Forest, and then Reptile House. Doors are at 7, show starts at 8. Costume party. We're encouraging people to come dressed up in
hell yeah
futuristic costumes, because our whole stick is futurism and cyberpunk, and trying to encourage that kind of thing. And then we're playing at Kirby's January 10th in Wichita. And then we're polishing up EP stuff. I think at the end of January we'll have our last vocal session and get done with that. And then we are gearing up for spring and summer weekend warrior shows where we'll travel to different major cities and play shows. Got a bunch of stuff booked already. Polished out a few more things. I'll probably up around Chicago and maybe a shot to Detroit, somewhere around in there. Wisconsin, maybe. Yeah, a few more spring and summer dates to add, and then we'll start rehearsing for spring and summer stuff. And then as soon as that EP comes out in the summer, we'll go right back to the studio and start working on the album.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm excited.
And where do you guys record at? Do you record in Lawrence or do you have to record out of town?
Well, we don't have to. We do.
You do. I guess have to, but you record out of town?
Yeah.
Okay.
We've been recording at GFM recording studio in Blue Springs, and our producer engineer is Robert Rebeck, and Robert's got several gold and platinum records to his credit.
Nice.
I wanted him involved because he does a lot of gospel and R&B and a lot of hip hop stuff, and those genres a lot of times concentrate on choir-esque vocals, which is something we're big into. Big giant harmony layers and vocals, male and female together. So I wanted somebody that had expertise in producing layered vocal, because it's tricky, not easy, especially with the big giant loud drums and guitars behind it. And there's some funky frequency that you got to do to get that all to work. And so I talked to Robert about, just because I knew what he was up to, and he's actually an incredible metal producer. And I asked him, like, what's the best studio in Kansas City? He's like, gear-wise, it's GFM. I was like, book it, let's do it. So kind of utilizing it as a development project, have some new members and new direction of things, and we're still doing the things that make They Watch Us from the Moon us, but then we're also deeper in development and how to enhance those things and bring those elements further into the process of the band. And a good way to develop that kind of stuff is do developmental projects in studio, and that's kind of what we've been doing for the last year or so, is working and reworking and working and reworking, and that didn't happen. We didn't like that. Let's change this, get rid of that thing, try one of those. We're actually going to have, it's 3-song EP, but there'll be 4 tracks. Because one of the tracks, we have a guest keyboard player, and his name is Tommy Stephenson. And Tommy is a keyboard player was the keyboard player for Peter Frampton, Joe Walsh, Tommy Bolin.
Okay.
You've heard Tommy on the radio every day of your life. He's a UFO nut, and he found our Facebook page and started texting me, and he's like, what is this? What is this? What kind of page is this? I'm like, we're a rock and roll band that utilizes UFO conspiracies as our lore. And he was like, he took a while to kind of answer me back, and he's like, where's your music? Send me a link. And I sent him a couple of links, and he goes, do you know who I am? I'm like, I didn't know at this point. I mean, Tommy Stevens is a pretty common name. There's a billion of them. Like, no. It's not like I listen to Peter Frampton every day anymore, you know. High school was a long time ago. Junior high is a long time ago. And he goes, I'm Tommy Stephenson. And he sent me a link. And I read his bio. I was like, holy shit. I was like, oh man, you're the Tommy. And he's like, yeah, that's me. And he goes, send me your link, your music stuff. And I'm like, all right, sure, here you go. Buy him. Send him a bunch of stuff. Send him old stuff, Bandcamp links. And then I sent him some demos. And he was like, I want to be on your stuff. I want to do a guest spot on your record. I'm like, no.
Nice.
He's like, yeah, this is great. I love what I'm hearing. I love the demo. When's your next studio appointment? I'm like, well, I can get you in, blah, 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 blah. We worked it out, and he came in and did a truly like 70s psychedelic interpretation of keyboard for one of our songs. So it'll come out eventually after the EP does. But yeah, isn't that cool?
Dude, that's fantastic.
Yeah. He's a fun guy. He's a really cool guy.
Well, Shane, I thank you. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you.
But I'm going to have links for the Midwest Doom Coalition. I'll have that in the show notes so people can contact and again get a hold of that, get all that stuff for you guys so we can help promote that, because I've
appreciate it.
This whole DIY thing, man, it's you got to have a community to do all this stuff, and it's called do it yourself, but you got to have people. We're all connected. Nobody does anything by themselves. So
no, it's impossible.
No, Shane, I appreciate you. I appreciate your time today, man. I had a great time, man.
Thank you. Me too. Thank you very much. I appreciate having me on. Thank you.
We've known each other a little bit over the past 4 or 5 years, but have gained a bigger appreciation for what you do and who you are. So thanks for spending time with me today, man.
Thank you. No, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. What a great conversation. I sure hope you got as much out of that as I did. I always learn something from my guests. That question about self-promotion, that was more for me than anything, and I hope it helped you too. I'll have links in the show notes for the Midwest Doom Coalition for those who might need this community, and links to Shane's music. This conversation also reminded me of the David Brooks book, How to Know a Person. In Chapter 14, titled Life Tasks, he discusses how, as we age, our life tasks continue to roll. The theme of the chapter is that if you want to understand someone well, you have to understand what life task they are in the middle of, and how their mind has evolved to complete this task. The generative life task is the one that I have in mind. This phase is often entered after the career consolidation life task, and before or in conjunction, actually, with the integrity versus despair life task. Shane mentions this phase or life task when discussing his legacy and also helping others. I'm going to read a few passages directly from the book. During the generative life task, people try to find some way to be of service to the world. One either achieves generativity or one falls into stagnation. Generativity can be defined as the capacity to foster and guide the next generations. I like that definition because it emphasizes that people commonly tackle the generativity task at 2 different points in their lives. First, when they become parents. Parenthood often teaches people how to love in a giving way. And later, when they are middle-aged or older and become mentors, they adopt a gift logic. How can I give back to the world? That replaces the meritocratic logic of the career consolidation years. A generative leader serves the people under him, lifts other people's visions to higher heights, and helps other people become better versions of themselves. The generative person often assumes the role of guardian. A person with this consciousness is often leading or serving some institution, whether it is a company, a community organization, a school, or a family. A guardian has an in-depth respect for the institution they have inherited. They see themselves as someone who has been entrusted with something, has taken delivery of something precious, and thus has a responsibility to steward it and to pass it along in better shape than they found it. A person with this mindset is not defined by what they take out of the institution, but by what they pour into it. At this moment in maturity, such a person fully appreciates that they did not create their own life. The family they grew up in, the school they went to, and the mentors and friends and organizations who helped them all implanted certain values, standards of excellence, a way of being. They are seized with the fervent desire to pass it on. A generative person gives others the gift of admiration, seeing them for the precious creatures they are. They give the gift of patience, understanding that people are always developing. They give them the gift of presence. I know a man who suffered a public disgrace. In the aftermath, one of his friends took him out to dinner every Sunday night for 2 years, the definition of a generative act. Since I mentioned integrity versus despair, I'm going to read a few passages on that as well. Integrity is the ability to come to terms with your life in the face of death. It's a feeling of peace that you have used and are using your time well. You have a sense of accomplishment and acceptance. Despair, by contrast, is marked by a sense of regret. You didn't lead your life as you believe you should have. Despair involves bitterness, ruminating over past mistakes, feeling unproductive. People often evade and externalize their regret. They become mad at the world, intent on displacing their disappointment about themselves into anger about how everything is going to hell. People in this stage often have a strong desire to learn. The lecture halls of the world are filled with senior citizens who seek greater knowledge and wisdom. The explanatory drive that was there when they were babies is still there now. Wisdom at this phase of life is the ability to see the connections between things. It's the ability to see things from multiple perspectives. I felt like that was important to share because this is where I feel I am also at in my current live tasks. Generative and in the integrity versus despair phase. Hence this podcast. I liken what Shane said about moving forward and every day doing one thing that moves you forward to do your best of the 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Doing your best looks different from moment to moment, and moving forward when feeling low can be the same. By doing something simple every day, and simple isn't always easy, but it's simple in that there are no complicated applications involved. It'd be as simple as getting out of bed one day, taking a shower the next, maybe starting to get to work on time, engaging with society. But every day, do your best to put one foot in front of the other. Like Shane said, it's on you to refuse to lay down and die. That's all for now. Thanks again for spending your time with me today. If this episode spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs a little nourishment. New episodes drop bi-weekly, so bring a friend, and let's help walk each other home. This has been the Morning Almonds Podcast. Please support local musicians, artists, and other creatives.